I wasn't supposed to be in his room, let alone touching his things. But that notebook was just sitting there, open, waiting like it wanted to be read. It was the third night I'd stayed over at Caleb's place. We weren't officially together. Not yet. Not exactly. There was something unspoken between us. Something simmering just beneath the surface. An electric current that buzzed in the silence, in every accidental brush of fingers, every too long glance across the couch. And yet somehow neither of us made a move. Maybe it was fear. Maybe we liked the ache of it. That night he'd gone out for a late run, shirtless as usual, because Caleb seemed to think shirts were optional at home. I'd offered to wait, make tea, maybe even stay the night again. He'd grinned, tossed me his key and said, "Help yourself. Just don't go snooping through my stuff." He said it with a wink. Playful, but also like he meant it. So of course, that's exactly what I did. Not out of nosiness. Not really. It was more like curiosity with a heartbeat. There's something about being in a man's space, surrounded by the scent of his skin on pillows, the way his books are stacked, the softness of a hoodie you shouldn't be wearing but do anyway. And then there it was on his desk, this worn black leather notebook. I hesitated. My fingers hovered above the cover. I told myself I'd just look at the outside. Just feel the texture. But the moment I touched it, something in me shifted. It felt warm. I know that sounds impossible, but it did. Like his hands had just been on it. Like it remembered being held. And when I opened it, the scent of paper and something woodsy like cedar and skin hit me. The pages weren't blank. They were filled with ink, sketches, and words that didn't look like notes or to-do lists or poetry. No, these were scenes. Moments. Intimate moments. I flipped to the center and saw my name. Not just once. Over and over. Always in cursive. Always in sentences that made my stomach tighten and my cheeks flush. She was sitting on my bed, wearing that oversized gray sweater. The one that slips off her shoulder like it's jealous of her skin. I want to touch her, but I can't. I want to kiss her, but I won't. Because the moment I do, everything changes. I stopped breathing. This wasn't just a crush. It was obsession. It was devotion. And I wasn't sure whether I felt flattered, or exposed, or wildly, impossibly turned on. A floorboard creaked. My heart jumped. I slammed the notebook shut and turned toward the door. Find anything interesting? His voice was low, amused, dangerous. He was standing in the doorway, sweaty, shirtless, his chest rising and falling like he'd run back to catch me in the act. And the look in his eyes. He knew exactly what I'd seen. He stood there, breath heavy, sweat gleaming across his collarbone, and I couldn't tell if he was furious or something else entirely. His eyes weren't cold. They were burning. I swallowed hard, clutching the notebook to my chest like it could shield me. I didn't mean to. You read it, he interrupted, stepping into the room, each step slow, deliberate. Didn't you? I didn't answer. My silence was its own confession. He closed the door behind him with a soft click that sounded louder than any scream. Then he just stood there, back against it, watching me. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to. I wrote those pages in the middle of the night, he said, voice low like it wasn't meant to be heard. After you'd fallen asleep on my couch again. I never thought you'd actually read them. My fingers loosened around the cover. You left it open. I know. He stepped closer. Maybe I wanted you to. That admission felt like a match dropped into gasoline. I couldn't move. My whole body was caught somewhere between panic and something much, much more dangerous. The notebook fell onto the bed between us with a soft thud. It landed open on the page with my name. My shoulder. The sweater. He noticed. I wasn't lying, he said, gaze drifting over me like he was writing another page in his head. That sweater drives me insane. I could feel it now, slipping off my shoulder like it had hurt him. The air between us thickened. I couldn't tell what was about to happen, only that if he took one more step, there'd be no pretending we were just friends anymore. And yet, I thought you weren't going to make a move, I whispered, breath catching. I thought you weren't going to snoop, he shot back, smiling with a crooked, reckless heat that made my knees waver. He reached out, and for a moment he didn't touch me, just hovered his hand near my face as if asking without words. My skin prickled. My heart pounded. Then, barely grazing my cheek, His fingers traced down, slow and warm, lingering at the corner of my jaw. I tilted into him without meaning to, like I was being pulled by gravity. "We're crossing something," I said, though it didn't feel like a warning anymore. We already did. And just before our lips met, that breathless second where anything was still possible, his phone buzzed. Once, then again. He paused. Eyes flicked to the screen on the desk. His entire expression changed. And that's when I saw it. A name lighting up his phone. A woman's name. Not mine. The name glowed on his phone like a spotlight on a secret. Isabel. I didn't recognize it. But the way his body tensed, just slightly like a ripple over still water, told me everything I needed to know. Not just a friend. Not just a name. It rang again. He stepped back just an inch, enough to let the space between us feel cold. The moment we were in, it cracked. "She's," he started, then stopped himself. He looked down as if searching for the right words on the floor. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My pulse was still echoing from his touch, from the way my body had leaned into his like I needed that notebook to be true. But now, I wasn't sure what story we were in. "She's no one," he finally said. Too fast. Too practiced. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was exactly what someone says when it's absolutely not true. "Really? Because your no one is calling you back to back while you're standing half an inch from my mouth," I said, voice tight. I didn't mean to sound jealous. But I did. God, I did. He turned the phone over, silencing it. The room pulsed with tension again, but it wasn't the same kind. It was the kind with questions. Ghosts. Doubt. "She used to be someone," he admitted, finally meeting my eyes. "A long time ago. But it's done. I haven't seen her in months." "Then why's she calling now?" I asked. His jaw clenched. He didn't answer. I moved to the edge of the bed, feeling the weight of the sweater on my skin again. Suddenly it didn't feel sexy. It felt vulnerable. I crossed my arms, needing to hold something myself. "Maybe I shouldn't have read the notebook," I whispered. "I shouldn't have assumed." But before I could finish, he knelt in front of me, his hand resting on my knee like a promise. "Don't do that," he said. "Don't pull away because of her. That notebook? That wasn't about her. It's about you. Every word, every page, since the day you first walked into my apartment and left your lip balm on the table like you lived here." I looked at him. Really looked. His voice was soft now, careful, like he was afraid he'd lose me before I even realized I was already half gone. "I don't care if you read it," he said. "I wanted you to. I just didn't know what would happen if you did." Neither did I. Because even now, even with the phone silenced, even with that name still burning in the back of my mind, my body was remembering his fingers on my skin. My heart was remembering the way he looked at me like I was the story he never meant to write but couldn't stop. I reached for his face. And right before I touched him, I asked, "Are you still in love with her?" He blinked. A beat. "Two." "No," he said. But it wasn't the words that answered me. It was the hesitation. That hesitation haunted me. He could lie with words, maybe, but not with silence. Still kneeling in front of me, Caleb reached for my hand, but I pulled it back before he could touch me again. The space between us had changed. No longer charged with heat, but something cooler, more cautious. Like walking barefoot through glass you hadn't seen until the light shifted. "You hesitated," I said, quiet but sharp. "That's not nothing." He dropped his gaze, ran his fingers through his damp hair, and exhaled hard. "It's complicated." God, I hated that word. Complicated. It was the adult version of, "I don't want to tell you the truth, but I also don't want to lie." It was a stall. A trap. A door half open and half closed at the same time. I stood, needing the movement to escape the static in my chest. "Caleb, I don't want to be a rebound. Or worse, a distraction." "You're not," he said, fast, fierce. "You're not." But I was already walking toward the kitchen, away from the bed, away from the notebook, away from the look in his eyes that said everything and nothing all at once. He followed me, of course. His presence was like gravity. Even when I tried to pull away, something in me leaned back toward him. "I'm not asking for perfect," I said, fingers wrapped around a cold mug just for the sake of holding something. "But I deserve to know if I'm just helping you forget someone you can't let go of." "You're not helping me forget," he said behind me. I turned. "You're making me remember what I actually want," he added, his voice hoarse. That stopped me. 'Cause that didn't sound like a line. It sounded like a scar. He stepped closer, slow now, like he knew he'd pushed too far. "Isabel and we were wrong for each other. She wanted to mold me into someone I wasn't. And I let her for too long. When she left, it felt like I was finally breathing again. But she keeps reaching out. Maybe to check if I'm still waiting." "Are you?" "No. A beat. But I haven't told her that. Not clearly. Not in the way I should have." There it was. The truth. Raw. Uneven. Human. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to push him away, say I deserved better. And maybe I did. But my body? It betrayed me. My heart was thudding again. Not from fear, but from the way he looked at me while saying all this. Like I was the first honest thing in his life in a very long time. "I didn't mean for this to happen with you," he said, stepping even closer now. "But you walked in and everything shifted." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" His fingers brushed my wrist gently, like asking for permission. "I mean, I can't stop thinking about you. And it's not just physical, though God knows it is that too. It's the way you leave your hair clipped to my lamp, or how you fall asleep on the wrong side of the bed. It's the way you look at me like I'm worth the risk." I didn't realize how close we'd gotten until I could feel his breath on my lips again. "I want you," he whispered. Then, as if drawn by something ancient and inevitable, his hand slid behind my neck. Not pulling me in. Just resting there. Heat against skin, trembling restraint. I closed my eyes and leaned in. But just before our lips met, a soft vibration buzzed again on the desk. We froze. Neither of us moved. We just stared at each other. Waiting. Tensed. Another message. This time the phone lit up with something more than just a name. A preview of the text. I caught it before he could turn away. It said, "I miss you. I'll be in the city this weekend. Can we talk?" The words on his screen echoed in my mind long after the message disappeared. "I miss you. I'll be in the city this weekend. Can we talk?" Felt like an ambush. Like she'd thrown open a door between them he hadn't fully closed. And now I was standing on the threshold, unsure whether to walk in or walk away. Caleb didn't say anything. He didn't have to. His body had already gone still, too still. Like he was somewhere else, already imagining that conversation. Her voice. Her face. Her hold on him even now. And me? I just stood there, wrapped in a sweater that wasn't mine. In a room that suddenly didn't feel like it belonged to me either. "Are you going to see her?" I asked. My voice was calm even, but my heart wasn't. It was slamming against my ribs like it wanted to escape. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked down. "I don't know." That broke something in me, because it meant he wanted to. And still, I didn't move. I couldn't. There was something between us. Something heavier than lust now, more dangerous than desire. Something that hurt in all the right places. I walked toward him slowly, like I was testing the edge of something sharp. "You said I'm not helping you forget. That I'm what you want." "You are." "Then prove it." His eyes locked onto mine. And I saw it, the war inside him. Wanting me. Haunted by her. The past bleeding into the present like ink on a wet page. I reached for his hand. "Don't just say it. Show me." And this time when he pulled me in, there was no hesitation. His mouth hovered inches from mine, our breath tangling like a secret we were about to break open. But it wasn't frantic. It wasn't rushed. It was slow, achingly slow, like every second was a question. "Are you sure? Are you still sure?" When our lips finally touched, it wasn't a kiss. It was a confession. Every part of me lit up. His hand at the base of my spine pulled me closer, and my body answered without thought, pressing against him like we were already falling and neither of us cared where we landed. I felt his restraint unraveling in my hands. Felt the way he breathed my name like it was something he'd been holding in for far too long. Everything else fell away, the city, the phone, her name. For a moment it was just us. But even then, as we melted into each other, part of me wondered, was this a beginning? Or just a very beautiful, very slow goodbye? I woke up alone in his bed. The sun had already claimed the room, warm and golden, brushing over the tangled sheets, the half-drunk glass of water on the nightstand, and the black leather notebook still open on the floor. He was gone. For a split second, I let myself believe he'd just stepped out for coffee. Maybe he'd bring back something sweet, with 2 cups and a smile that said last night meant something. Maybe I'd roll over, find his scent still on the pillow, and pretend the world outside didn't exist. But I knew better. His phone was missing from the desk, and so was his jacket. I pulled the sweater tighter around me and sat at the edge of the bed, trying not to let my mind write the scenes I wasn't invited to witness. Scenes with her. I waited. Hours passed. When the sun began to drop low against the skyline, turning the walls amber, I heard the sound of his key in the door. I didn't go out to greet him. He came into the bedroom slowly, like he knew how fragile everything had become. Like he was afraid his presence might shatter what little hope was left between us. His hair was messy, his face unreadable, his eyes tired. I stood. He didn't speak. So, I asked. One word, and it cracked through the quiet like thunder. He looked down, then back at me. She's leaving tomorrow. Did you sleep with her? No. His voice was firm. Immediate. Honest. No, I didn't. But you saw her. Yes. I waited. He took a breath. We talked. She cried. She said she missed what we had, that she made a mistake, that maybe we could start over. And what did you say? He walked toward me slow and heavy, like every step cost him something. I said I didn't know if I loved her anymore. That I didn't know if I ever did, the way I thought I did. He was close now. Close enough that I could see the storm in his eyes. But I do know one thing, he added. When I was with her today, all I could think about was you. My breath caught. I kept wondering what you were doing, whether you were still here, whether I'd already lost you. He reached out, not to pull me in but to offer his hand. Open. Waiting. I don't want to go backward, he said. Not when everything I want is right in front of me. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the truth is, part of me had already begun to pull away. Because when someone opens a door like that, even just a crack, it changes you. It changes what you think you mean to them. Still, I looked at his hand. Then I looked at him. And just when I thought I might take it, his phone buzzed again. Neither of us moved. We both just stood there, staring at the space between us, knowing that even if she left the city, the past didn't leave that easily. That night I didn't sleep. Caleb lay beside me, or tried to. His arm brushed mine under the covers, warm, steady, familiar. But his breath didn't sound peaceful. It sounded like someone trying to stay still so they wouldn't break anything, including me. I lay on my back, eyes open, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. I could feel the weight of her still in the room. Not her body, but her presence. The way his voice had changed when he said her name. The pause before his confessions. The quiet grief in his eyes after he said he didn't love her anymore. I believed him. But I also knew he hadn't fully let her go. Not yet. Not when he'd met her face to face and still wasn't sure what to do with the past they'd built together. And that's when something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Curiosity. Dark, aching, and dangerous. In the morning he went out for coffee again. Still trying to do the right thing. Still trying to prove that I was the one he wanted now. And that's when I saw his laptop open on the desk. No password. Just his inbox. I stared at it for a long moment, heart pounding, fingers twitching. I didn't want to look. But I did. I told myself I needed closure. I needed to know. I needed something real, because last night had felt like a dream. And I didn't know if I was the fantasy or the afterthought. So I clicked. The most recent message was from her. Subject. Last night. I know you're trying to move on. But I just needed to see you one more time. I wasn't expecting it to hurt like that. I thought I could do this without wanting you again. But I can't. You know you still feel it too. And maybe she's the right distraction, but I'm the one who knows you. Don't forget that. I stopped breathing. The room started spinning, but I couldn't move. I read it again. She called me a distraction. And the worst part? He hadn't responded. Not to shut her down. Not to correct her. He hadn't said anything. And in that silence, I found my answer. Not the one I wanted, but the one I needed. I closed the laptop gently, as if I hadn't just seen a version of myself I wasn't ready to meet. The girl who let desire blur her instincts. The girl who wanted so badly to be chosen. She ignored every red flag waving like wildfire. When he came back, smiling, coffee in hand, I kissed him before he could speak. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed to know what it felt like one last time before I decided what kind of girl I wanted to be in this story. And as our lips met, and his hand slid into my hair, a single truth settled into my chest like a stone. I wasn't the only one who crossed a line. I didn't leave right away. I wanted to. I even packed my things, slowly, methodically, like someone closing a chapter word by word. But I couldn't walk out the door without saying something. Not yet. He was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, humming under his breath like everything was fine. Like last night hadn't happened. Like her email wasn't still echoing in the silence between us. When he looked up and saw the bag in my hand, his whole body stilled. "You're leaving?" he asked, already knowing the answer. I nodded. "I read the email." His eyes closed. Just for a second. And I saw it, the guilt, the weight, the war inside him. "You weren't supposed to see that." "No," I said quietly, "but I needed to." He crossed the room, set down his mug, and took a breath like he was about to make a speech that could save everything. "I didn't respond," he said, "because I didn't know what to say without hurting her." "You didn't respond," I echoed, voice steady. "But you didn't delete it either." That stopped him. He opened his mouth, closed it. I continued. "You wanted to keep it, to read it again. Maybe not because you wanted her back, but because some part of you needed to know she still wanted you." The silence that followed was the most honest moment we'd ever had. I stepped closer, not angry, not bitter, just heartbreakingly clear. "You were writing about me," I said. "In your notebook. All those pages. But you were still living inside a story you hadn't finished yet." His face cracked. Not with denial but with understanding. "I care about you," he said. "More than I've cared about anyone in a long time." "I know. But I deserve someone whose heart is whole," I whispered. "Not someone who's still trying to edit the last chapter while writing a new one." Tears stung the corners of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not here. Not in front of the man I almost let rewrite me. He reached out to touch my hand. I let him. Just for a moment. It wasn't a plea. It was a goodbye. I turned and walked to the door. Sweater still draped over my shoulders like a memory I hadn't yet learned how to shed. Before I left, I looked back once. He was holding the notebook, staring at the page with my name. And I knew with absolute certainty that I had been real to him. But some stories aren't meant to end with a kiss. Some are meant to be remembered with ache, with wonder, with the soft kind of pain that reminds you what it means to want something almost enough.